Some facts about animals are thought to be unquestionable, but do you know that some of them are really fake? The reason is simple. People used to have much less truthful knowledge about the animal world than we have now. So, in my video, I want to dispel the best-known myths. Be ready to be surprised! We all know that when frightened, ostriches instinctively bury their heads in the sand in the hopes that trouble will pass them by. But actually, they don't do that. Not only because they wouldn't be able to breathe, but they really have no reason to do so. Ostriches are the fastest animals on two legs, capable of running as fast as 40 miles per hour for a short period of time if they see danger. Besides, they are the largest and heaviest living birds in the world. They can be 7 to 9 feet tall and weigh as much as 350 pounds. There are not very many predators that an ostrich can't escape from. But where did the myth come from? When nesting, ostriches dig shallow holes in the ground to use as nests for their eggs. They turn their eggs with the help of their beaks several times a day. From a distance, it looks like the bird is burying its head in the sand. We've always been told not to stand in front of a bull when wearing something red. But the truth is that bulls are actually colorblind for red and green. Like other cattle, they just can't differentiate between red and green colors. But why does the bull lose his temper when a matador comes closer? It's not the color, but rather the movement of the cape that makes bulls so angry. The bulls used in bullfights are from a very aggressive breed, and they're raised in a way that any sudden movements will make these bulls angry and make them attack. Blind like a mole. We all hear this phrase, but it doesn't completely correspond to the reality. Moles aren't blind, but they are colorblind and have very poor eyesight. They can only see light and movement. The moles use little movement and scent sensors on the tip of their nose to find prey and other moles, so they can't be called blind. Since our childhood, we have known that mice are crazy about cheese. We see it in books and cartoons. But the truth is that these creatures don't like cheese at all. They might eat it if there's nothing else around. You know, a hungry mouse can't be too picky. But cheese is far from being their favorite food. Researchers from the UK's Manchester Metropolitan University found that mice actually prefer sweets to cheeses. As cheese doesn't appear naturally in the diet of mice, it simply can't be preferable. The idea that fish are mute is also false. Of course, we can't hear their serenades or anything like that, but these animals really sing, as scientists think. Some fish species sing together in some sort of choir every single day, just as birds do. And there's only one difference. Limited human ears cannot perceive their fishy underwater voices. The researchers from Australia have managed to record some of these songs. They were a collection of grunts, hums, and foghorn-like sounds. There are a lot of animals that hibernate. These are bears, chipmunks, raccoons, and others. But some people think that these animals hibernate not to get cold during the cold period of time. But it is not so. The main reason for hibernation is lack of food, in which living beings have to survive. So, many animals snuggle up in caves, burrows, or hollows and sleep during the cold winter months. And this time, food is just harder to find, and cold weather makes it harder for their bodies to work. But it's not quite the case of sleep. When an animal hibernates, its heart beats very slowly, and it also breathes less. The body temperature also goes down, and the brain goes into a form of sleep too. Many people, even vets, used to believe that dogs see only in black and white, while recent studies suggest that they actually do have some color vision, but it's not very strong. As scientists say, dogs have only 20% of the cone photoreceptor cells that humans have. This is the part of the eye that controls the perception of color. A dog's visual acuity is also less developed than ours. Some experts think that dogs only have 20 to 40% of our visual acuity. Dog owners often think the wet dog nose as a sign of good health, but the necessity for wet nose in dogs is far from dealing with good health. The point is, wet noses work better. The sense of smell is important to a dog, as you know. Unlike humans, dogs depend not only on vision, but use both sight and smell to assess their surroundings and to communicate. Dogs have more than 100 million sensory receptor sites in the nasal cavity, compared to 6 million in people. And they all work best when damp because scent particles stick better to damp surfaces. So the wet nose is a cool nose. We all know that camels can do without water for weeks, and we, of course, hear that these astonishing creatures supply water in their humps. But it's not water that camels have in their humps, it is fat. Camels' humps actually store fatty tissue, which they use as a source of nourishment when there is not enough food. Camels typically live in the desert, where food sources can be hard to find. When a camel is unable to access food for a long period of time, its body just metabolizes the fat in the humps for nutrition. Although the humps don't store water, camels are still incredibly efficient with water they use per day. That's why they can go many days without drinking. There's a very dangerous legend that crocodiles are extremely fast in the water but very slow on land. This myth can cost you a life, as crocodiles are very efficient in both environments. Large crocodiles can run between 15 to 22 miles per hour. These fast crocodiles include Nile, saltwater, and American crocodiles. They are some of the largest species on the planet, but there is some good news. Crocodiles will rarely attempt to chase a human on dry land. You are sure to hear that sheep are stupid animals, but the truth is just the opposite. Sheep are actually surprisingly intelligent. They have impressive memory and recognition skills. They're able to build friendships and feel sad separating with their friends. For example, a 2001 study found that they can recognize and remember at least 50 individual faces for more than 2 years. That's longer than many humans can. There's a popular myth that goldfish only have a 3-second memory span, and when this time passes, these creatures see the world for the first time. But recent research has shown that goldfish have a memory that lasts at least 3 months long. Scientists from Israel spent 1 month teaching young fish to associate a certain sound with feeding time. And this fish, trained to remember a certain sound while in captivity, remembered and reacted to the same sound after months in the wild. If a shark stops moving, it will die. We also take this fact for granted, but it is wrong. Most sharks don't have to swim constantly to breathe or to stay alive. Most species use a process called buccal pumping. The name comes from the cheek muscles that sharks use to physically filter water into their mouths and over their gills. These fish can change periods of activity and rest, and don't have to move all day around. But there are several shark species that really have to move to stay alive. And they are the most famous, such as the whale shark and the mako shark. That's why the myth is so popular. There is one myth that elephants move very loudly. It's hard to imagine how quiet elephants can be. Their enormous feet softly sink into the ground with each step, and you don't even hear them coming until they are almost beside you. Yes, despite their massive size, elephants can walk around almost noiselessly. The soft padding on the underside of their feet absorbs the noise, and even when moving quite fast, they can be super quiet. And the last myth from the list. What happens to a bee after it stings you? It dies. But that's just partly true. The point is that it actually depends on the species. To be precise, only honeybees die after stinging. They have problems with only big mammals, including us. The thing is that their barbed stinger cannot cope with fleshy human skin. The sting itself will get stuck in it. When the bee attempts to pull itself away, this unfortunately tears away its abdomen, leaving the stinger behind. Other species of bees don't have such a terrible end after stinging. Not all of them actually sting. Thanks a lot for your attention. Hope you found something interesting in my video. Let me know what fact you think is the most exciting. Write down in the comments below. See you!